Hi there, my name is Ava McCoy, one of the founders of Get Classically Educated, and I am here with one of our amazing GCE mamas who is here to talk a little bit about her experience this year and to give us a little more information about what she's been experiencing lately. So, hi Regina, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Ava. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Okay, so Regina, can you tell me a little bit about your family and how you found GCE?
Oh my, that's a loaded question. How long do we have, Ava? No, so basically, we have been a homeschooling family. I've homeschooled all seven of the kids at some point in time, but mainly homeschooled six of the kids. And we've always done classical education. It's just I fell in love with it the more I learned about it early on, and I just love classical education. And so we were hitting the road in 2021, knowing we were not going to be able to continue with our homeschool group that meets every week to continue that classical form of education. Plus, as you know, Ava, classical education requires a lot of textbooks and it just requires a lot that comes along with it, a lot of digging through pages and things like that. And so I was like, there's no way we can take that on the road. Just too much for weight for our RV, all the things,
Yeah.
right? No space with all the kids having all of that. So we kind of did our own thing for the first year or two. It worked really well, and then came in GCE. So I had a friend of mine who's a mutual friend, and said, hey, I know someone who's starting basically classical education for the road. And I was like, what? My ears perked up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So we just talked a little bit about like what it looked like for us on the road, what it looked like on a weekly basis, what it looked like for the kids, would it be a good fit? And that's kind of how the whole conversation started.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. We're so glad that it was helpful for you. So, what was going on before GC? I heard you touch a little bit on classical education that you were doing before that, but what made you start looking for something different?
Okay, so we started with a community school, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with a community school, but basically, my 21-year-old now, when she was in kindergarten, we put her in a community school. So basically, what that means is they attend school 3 days a week and you homeschool 2 days a week. So you do not choose curriculum, you do not lesson plan. That is literally all handed to you by the teacher. So that is what was our introduction to kind of homeschool and what it could look like. It worked amazing. The community was amazing. A few years in, I ended up having three kids in the school, and I saw what that was going to look like, and I could not survive. I was going to drown
Mhm.
with just the amount of work that needed to be done at home. We were homeschooling from, I mean, easily 8 or 9 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. Like it just because I had to tend to all three kids. They were all younger. And I was like, this is not going to work for their foundational years of reading and writing and things like that, where I need to be so present.
Mhm.
So we did that for through her third grade year. And then her fourth grade year, we moved the family over to, because that was classical education as well. It looked a little different, but the foundation of it was classical. And then we discovered classical conversations. So classical conversations was a whole lot more, actually classical, I should say, education, not a little bit, a whole lot more. So then
Mhm.
I really got a taste, a deep dive into what classical education was. And I saw the long run of classical education. Like I saw what it would look like in the high school years. And that's what excited me. I
Mhm.
loved what it had to offer. And so I became very involved in the community. All of my kids were in it. And then I had mentioned earlier, 2021, we left the area to go, the Tampa area, to hit the road full time as an RV family. So once we did that, we knew something had to change. So we hit the road. Like I said, that first year, we just continued doing a lot of the curriculum we had already done before, but just with us. And then GCE came in and was like, hey, basically, I can offer you this classical education you're looking for, but virtually. And that was the hard part of being able to duplicate classical conversations on the road, was not
Mhm.
having that community to be able to have conversation. So
Yeah, awesome. So, what exactly has changed for your children since joining GCE?
Well, I think so. Actually, I'm gonna tell a story. If you want me to not tell the story, stop me. But
Go
so
for it.
we were in Arizona one year around Thanksgiving, and we were parked next to another family. And we started talking about homeschooling. We had very like minded values. They had boys. I have boys. I have both, but my boys loved their boys. And conversation started, and they ended up joining GCE. And when they did, for my kids to be able to see their friends like weekly, like it was a set, it was a meeting, be able to see these friends weekly, it was it like excited them even more for that weekly class. So that's just like a side note of a story. But it was also just exposure to good literature. I love good literature. I have
Mm,
every intention of continuing to like do good literature, and then life gets in the way, and then I'm at a weird parenting point where I have older kids and high school and junior high, middle school, and then I also have elementary. So I'm in a really weird place where I'm needed in a whole lot of places and I just can't be there. And
mm,
so GCE was really nice to be able to have that, to know that like they're still getting the good literature, they're still getting the Latin, they're still getting those good discussions. At first it might be a little awkward, as you're navigating Zoom or you're navigating when to speak, when not to speak. But then those are great skills. You have to learn to listen more and be quiet and speak only when it really is your turn. So those are just some great benefits that GCE brought along to our family and our homeschooling journey.
so, so yeah, Regina, what do you love most about the program?
I love most about the program. I feel like I'm going to reiterate. Um, I love having I love having the support, I guess I
Mm.
would say. Like, I know that I can message Stacy or Bonnie, or when you were with my kiddos, I know I could message you guys at any time and you were very responsive. Not saying I expect you to be at my beck and call 24/7, but you're responsive. It's not like I'm signing up for this virtual class or program or whatever that's like, okay, it's class time, you're available. And then when class time's not there, you're not available. So
Mm,
having that availability for conversation, also just holding the kids accountable. Like, I mean, there
mm,
were times where it was like, hey, your kid is not on screen, or your kid is not participating, or your kid. And at first I was like, oh, I've taught them better. That's so frustrating. But it's
yeah.
also really good to know that like even those things are being paid attention to. And it's
Mm,
not just a checkbox for a
yeah.
class. And I love good literature and I love Latin exposure. So go back to that.
Yay. Yeah, community is so important with especially with more kids. I That's so great to hear that. Well, so Regina, if you were talking to a parent who's maybe on the fence about GCE, maybe they're nervous or they don't know if it will be a good fit for them, what would you say to one of those parents?
So my response is a longtime homeschool mom. I think I calculated this last year and it's like 14 years or something like that as a homeschool mom.
Wow.
Um, I would say we easily can overthink everything as homeschool moms. We
Mm,
easily can think we never provide enough. And so my response to that is always, you will never provide enough, and that's okay because we
mm,
can't do it all.
mhm,
So you need to provide what is best for your child, for your situation, and for your family. So
mm,
I always say, whatever choice you make doesn't mean it's forever.
mm,
So do it, give it a go, give it a shot. It might work for some kids, it might not, but ultimately you do not know unless you take that risk, unless you jump in.
mm. So wise. Well, Regina, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your 2 cents on all these parents that are going to be viewing this are going to have hopefully a better idea of what we do and how it's been benefiting